Laughter echoed through the wide glass corridors of the mall, sharp, cruel, the kind that makes strangers look away. Amara clutched her shopping bag tighter, trying to disappear into the marble floor. "Nice hair. Did you plug it in the socket?" One of the girls sneered, her phone raised, recording every second. A small crowd had begun to form, some amused, most silent. Amara's throat tightened, her pulse trembling at her wrists. She wanted to speak, to run, to vanish. But then everything stopped. The echo of heavy boots clicked across the tile floor, steady and slow, like thunder wrapped in control. The laughter died in an instant. One of the girls turned, her smirk fading as her reflection caught the woman walking toward them, shoulders squared, eyes locked, presence like a storm. No one in that mall knew who was about to walk in, but they'd remember her forever. Amara Cole was the kind of girl who noticed everything, but said very little. At 16, she carried herself with the quiet grace of someone used to fading into the background. Her teachers often described her as polite, reserved, thoughtful, never realizing how much of that came from practice years of learning when to speak and when silence was safer. The family had moved to this new city only 6 months ago, after her mother's final deployment. A fresh start, her mom had said. But new halls, new faces, and the same cruel whispers had followed her here. Home was their sanctuary. A small apartment filled with books, plants, and sunlight. Every morning, Amara would find her mother, Sergeant Maya Cole, seated at the kitchen table polishing her old service boots. She didn't need them anymore, Maya. Now worked as a physical therapist at the local rehab center, but she cleaned them the way soldiers pray. Out of respect for what they survived, Maya had a presence that filled every room she entered, even in silence. She was tall, her frame lean and strong, her movements precise. Yet her voice, when she spoke to her daughter, was soft, low like a hum, steady like the sound of safety. To the world, she was once a warrior. To Amara, she was warmth wrapped in discipline. "Morning, baby," Maya would say, eyes still on the boots. "You ready to face the world again?" Amara would shrug, pulling her backpack onto her shoulder. "As ready as I'll ever be?" Her mom smiled the same knowing smile each time. "Good. Just remember, no one can take your peace unless you hand it to them." It sounded simple when Maya said it, like courage could be folded and packed into a lunch bag. But out there in the crowded hallways and shopping malls, peace was harder to keep. It slipped away between the laughter of those who looked at her skin and saw something to mock, between the stares that lingered too long, between the whispers that began with, "She thinks she's better than us." Maya had spent her life standing tall in the face of danger, but Amara was still learning what that meant in her own world. Her battles didn't involve bullets or orders. They were quiet wars fought in classrooms, cafeterias, and comment sections. At night, Mara would lie awake, scrolling through her phone, seeing girls her age posting pictures, smiling, carefree. She wanted to be like them, confident, untouchable. But every time she tried to speak up, something in her froze. She remembered every time she'd been told she was too sensitive, every laugh that cut too deep. Her voice had become a fragile thing, something she protected by keeping it silent. Maya noticed, of course. She noticed everything. One evening while they were washing dishes, she spoke without looking up. "You're holding it in again, huh?" Amara's hands stilled in the soapy water. "I'm fine." "No, you're quiet," Maya said. "And quiet doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it means you're carrying too much alone." Amara didn't answer. She wanted to tell her mom that it wasn't like the army, that her enemies didn't come in uniforms, but in whispers and smiles. That the wounds they left didn't bleed, but they lingered all the same. Maya dried her hands, her tone softening. "You know, when I was overseas, I met people who thought I didn't belong. I fought harder because of it. But I also learned something." She turned to face her daughter. "If you ever need me, baby, just stand tall. You never know who's watching." Amara had nodded then, not really understanding. But the words stayed with, hurl like a song she couldn't forget. In school, she moved through her days unnoticed, earbuds in, head down. She loved drawing pages filled with portraits of people she wished existed, girls who looked like her, but carried no fear in their eyes. After school, she'd stop by the mall sometimes, wandering through shops, sketchbook in hand, pretending she belonged to the easy laughter of others, and maybe that's why she was there. That afternoon, the day everything changed. She wasn't looking for trouble. She was looking for something else entirely. Maybe belonging. Maybe peace. Or maybe just one quiet moment where no one made her feel small. But the world doesn't always wait for you to find peace before it tests you. And Amara was about to be tested in a way that would remind her. Everyone watching exactly who her mother was. The mall on a Saturday. Afternoon smelled like pretzels and perfume crowded. Loud and bright with fluorescent light, Amara walked quietly through the clothing racks, clutching a few shirts she didn't really need. She liked to come here after school sometimes, not to buy, but to blend and to feel part of the same rhythm everyone else moved to. Her earbuds were in, music low, her head swaying slightly to a song only she could hear. For a few minutes, she almost forgot the world outside. That was before she heard it. Cute outfit. A voice called behind her, sharp with sarcasm. Amara turned, unsure at first that it was meant for her. 3 girls stood a few feet away, perfectly styled, laughing among themselves. The one in the middle, Brittany, held a phone loosely in her hand. Her lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Love the vintage vibe," Brittany said, glancing at Amara's worn sneakers. "You thrift that, or did someone donate it to you?" The other to Jenna and Kaylee's nickered, pretending to browse a rack of jeans. Amara's chest tightened. She managed a small, polite smile. "Just shopping," she said softly, turning back to the mirror. Brittany stepped closer, her reflection appearing beside Amara's. "Shopping. Oh, my bad. I didn't know they let people loiter this long." The laughter stung. Amara lowered her eyes, pretending to check a price tag. Her reflection blurred as her vision prickled with tears she refused to show. She moved toward the next aisle. But Brittany followed, phone now raised. "Hey, I'm doing this thing for TikTok," she said, grin widening. "You want to be in it?" It's called Mall Fashion Fail. The words hit harder than they should have. Amara felt her throat tighten, her heart beating louder than the mall's music. She wanted to disappear, but her body wouldn't move fast enough. "Come on. Turn around," Brittany teased, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. "Let's see that hair." "It's natural, right? Must take forever to tame that, huh?" Jenna laughed. "Girl, it's like what's that doll? Barbie's friend who didn't get her hair done?" Something inside Amara started to shake. She pressed her lips together. "Can you please stop recording me?" Brittany feigned innocence. "Why? You're the one walking around like you own the place. Don't you want to be famous?" A few shoppers glanced over but quickly looked away. A mall security guard passed the store entrance, saw the phone raised, saw the laughter, and kept walking. Amara noticed. The way adults sometimes notice something wrong, but choose not to see. Her heart thudded so hard it echoed in her ears. Every sound felt magnified: the rustle of shopping bags, the faint pop music overhead, the girls snickering. She tried to steady her breathing, but it came out short and uneven. She turned, heading for the door. "I don't want any trouble," she whispered. Kaylee stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Chill, we're just playing," she said, though her smirk told another story. "Yeah," Brittany added, circling like a shark that smelled weakness. "You should relax." "Smile for the camera, girl." Amara froze, eyes darting toward the store clerk behind the counter. The woman was pretending to fold clothes, clearly uncomfortable but unwilling to get involved. "Please," Amara said again, voice trembling now. Brittany tilted her phone, capturing Amara's face. "Oh my God, she's crying," she said, her tone gleeful. "Guys, look at this. She's actually crying." Jenna giggled. "Post it. #sensitive. And then something shifted. The laughter grew louder, echoing off the tiled floors. A few nearby shoppers began to slow down, sensing tension, but unsure what they were seeing. A small circle was forming, curious eyes, half-hidden phones. Amara could feel her skin burn with humiliation. Her fingers trembled as she tried to step away. But Brittany reached out and tugged lightly at her sleeve. Hey, don't walk away when I'm talking to you, she said, mocking authority. Didn't your mom teach you any manners? That line, those words, they hit something deep. Amara's eyes flashed, not with anger, but something older, something like grief. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. Stand tall. You never know who's watching. Her chest rose and fell. Her lips parted, but no words came. She just looked at Brittany, and for the first time didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't hide. The bullies noticed the change. Brittany hesitated, lowering her phone just slightly. What? She said, smirking again, though her voice was thinner now. You gonna hit me or something? Amara didn't answer. Her silence felt heavier than shouting. The crowd had grown. Some kids were whispering, some filming. The mall's background noise dulled into a distant hum. Then footsteps. Slow. Even the sound of heels or boots steady and deliberate. Getting closer. Brittany turned her head, annoyed. What now? Amara's eyes shifted past her, toward the entrance. The sound grew louder, thud, thud, until it filled the space between every heartbeat. Brittany laughed nervously. Who's that, your mom? She joked, trying to recover her confidence. But Amara didn't smile. She just stood there, eyes locked on the reflection in the glass storefront. A tall figure was approaching through the crowd, each step slow but sure, cutting through the chaos like a blade through silk. The onlookers began to step aside instinctively, parting without realizing why. Amara didn't breathe. She didn't move. She just whispered so low that only the phone's mic might have caught it. I didn't do anything. Across town, Maya Cole was finishing up her shift at the rehab center when her phone buzzed. She almost ignored it. Her last patient had just left. She was savoring the silence that comes only after hours of tending to other people's pain. But something about the vibration felt off. The kind that didn't stop after one ring. The kind that made her stomach twist. She picked it up, thumb swiping across the cracked screen. A notification blinked. Live now. Mall fashion fail challenge. The thumbnail froze her daughter's face, eyes red, standing in a ring of laughing girls. The video had only been live for 40 seconds. 40 seconds that felt like a lifetime. Maya didn't think. She didn't speak. She just moved. Her car keys were on the counter, her jacket on the chair. In one fluid motion, she grabbed both. Her coworkers called after her, but she didn't answer. Her footsteps echoed down the empty hallway, precise, deliberate. The same rhythm she'd learned in the military, the pace of control, not panic. Outside, the late afternoon light stretched long across the parking lot. She climbed into her old black SUV, the seatbelt snapping tight. The engine roared, tires screeching softly as she pulled out. Her mind was a storm, but her body was still, her breathing even. Years of training had taught her this. When chaos hits, calm becomes your weapon. The GPS said 15 minutes to the mall. Maya made it an 8. Back inside, the laughter had turned into a full-on spectacle. Brittany had gone live on social media, her phone capturing everything. The comment section filled with emojis and mockery. Say hi to the internet. Amara Brittany sang, voice syrupy and cruel. Smile for your fans. Amara's eyes shimmered. Her chest rose and fell fast. She wanted to move, but her legs felt glued to the floor. Her breathing was shallow, her world shrinking to the sound of their laughter. You gonna cry again? Jenna teased, holding a pink shopping bag like a trophy. Come on, give them a show. Brittany tilted her head, pretending sympathy. Maybe she's just shy. Or maybe she finally realized where she belongs. The words hit harder than any slap, and then something changed in the air. A shift. Subtle at first. The kind of silence that slides into a room before anyone notices. From the entrance, the mall doors hissed open. The sound of combat boots striking tile carried through the noise, slow, steady, unhurried. Like someone who didn't need to rush to be feared. People looked up. Heads turned. The laughter faltered. Maya walked in, her presence slicing through the chatter like a blade. She wasn't in uniform, but she didn't need it. The posture, the eyes, the precision, it was all there. She moved with purpose, scanning the crowd until her gaze landed on the cluster of girls at the clothing rack. Her daughter stood at the center, frozen, surrounded. Amara's breath caught. Relief flooded her chest so suddenly it almost made her dizzy. Maya didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Every step closer was a warning. When strength enters the room, the narrator might have whispered. It doesn't need to shout. Brittany turned, ready to roll her eyes at whoever was interrupting until she saw Maya's face. The smirk died midair. "Hi," Brittany stammered, clutching her phone tighter. "We were just playing?" Maya finished, for her voice calm, cool, and low. "That what you call it?" The girls looked at one another, uneasy now. The crowd that had gathered began to shift backward, forming a wider circle. Some started filming again, sensing the shift but not understanding it. Maya's eyes flicked to the phone in Brittany's hand. "You record everything?" Brittany swallowed. "It's just a joke." "We didn't mean." Maya stepped closer, close enough that Brittany could see the reflection of her own trembling hand in Maya's eyes. "You think you're brave?" Maya said quietly. "When no one fights back," Brittany's voice cracked. I wasn't trying to hurt her." Maya tilted her head, one eyebrow raised. "But you did. You just didn't expect anyone to make you see it." Jenna stepped forward, trying to laugh it off. "Ma'am, seriously, we didn't do anything." "We were just joking." Maya turned her attention to her, tone still even. "Then why are your hands shaking?" Silence. She looked at Amara, her expression softening for the briefest second. "You okay, baby?" Amara nodded, though her lips trembled. "I didn't do anything, Mom. I know." The calm in Maya's voice was so steady, it frightened the bullies more than any shouting could. She took the phone from Brittany's hand, pressed stop on the recording, and held it out. "You can have this back when you delete the video. Now." Brittany hesitated, eyes darting between her friends. "Now." Her fingers moved fast. Trembling as she opened her feed, deleted the live, and cleared the post. Maya watched, saying nothing until the screen went blank. "Good," she said. "Now hand it to mall security. They'll need to see the backup." Brittany blinked. "Backup? You think the internet forgets that fast?" Maya replied. "You uploaded this to a platform that auto-saves streams? You can't erase what you did, but you can start fixing it." Her tone wasn't angry. It was surgical, controlled. The kind of voice that could command soldiers or silence storms by now. A security guard had finally approached, nervous and uncertain. "Ma'am, is there a problem here?" Maya turned to him with a look that made him stand straighter. "The problem," she said evenly, "is that 3 minors just harassed my daughter while you walked past them. I'm sure the cameras caught it." The guard shifted, glancing between them. "Ma'am, I.O. wasn't aware. You're aware now?" He nodded quickly, pulling out his radio. Maya's eyes returned to Brittany, Jenna, and Kaylee. They looked smaller and as suddenly aware of the weight of the moment. "Do you have any idea what you just taught my daughter?" she asked quietly. None of them spoke. "You taught her that cruelty gets applause," she continued. "That silence protects the wrong people. That it's okay to humiliate someone if you call it a joke." Her tone broke slightly at the edges, now not anger, but disappointment. "I've seen men lose their humanity overseas. I never thought I'd see children lose it in a shopping mall." Brittany's eyes filled with tears she didn't expect. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Maya looked at her not with hatred, but with something heavier. "You don't owe me an apology. You owe it to yourself to ask what made you think this was fun." The crowd was silent now. Phones were still, hands frozen, breaths held. The entire mall felt smaller, quieter. Maya turned to Amara, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You did nothing wrong," she said. "You don't have to run from people like this. Let them see what real strength looks like." Amara blinked back tears, her mother's touch grounding her like gravity itself. Maya faced the girls one last time. "My daughter's been playing soldier since the day she was born. You wouldn't last a minute." The words hit the air like a verdict. Not shouted, delivered, final. She turned, guiding Amara toward the exit. Every step they took left silence behind. As they reached the doors, the The sound of those same combat boots echoed once more, measured. Steady, unstoppable, and behind them no one laughed. Maya didn't let go of her calm. The security guard looked overwhelmed, clutching his radio like a lifeline as a small crowd began to whisper. The tension hung thick in the air, and everyone seemed to be waiting for something to explode. But Maya didn't explode. She took control. "Call your manager," she said evenly. Now, the guard nodded quickly, murmuring into his radio. Within moments, a woman in a tailored navy jacket arrived. Mall manager Peterson, name badge flashing under the harsh lights. Her professional smile faltered as she took in the scene. The crying teenagers. The crowd, the ex-soldiers standing calmly in their center like the eye of a storm. "What's going on here?" Peterson asked. Maya met her eyes. "Harassment. Live-streamed. Right here in your mall." She gestured toward the three girls. "You might want to check your cameras. I'm sure they caught enough for you to decide what kind of place you're running." Peterson's smile vanished. "Of course, I'll get security footage right away." As she hurried off, Maya turned her attention back to the crowd. She could feel their eyes' curiosity, guilt, discomfort. People who had stood by, watching through phone screens instead of intervening. She took a slow breath, steadying herself before she spoke. "You know what the hardest part of serving overseas was?" She began, voice calm but carrying easily across the store. "It wasn't the heat or the hunger or the fear. It was knowing that sometimes even the people on your own side look at you and don't see you." The crowd was quiet. "I've been stared at before," Maya continued, "by people who thought a black woman in uniform didn't belong there. I've been underestimated, ignored, and told to stay in my place. But do you know what I learned?" She paused, her gaze steady. "Power isn't about who shouts the loudest. It's about who stays standing when everyone else looks away." A murmur ran through the onlookers. Some lowered their phones. Others glanced guiltily toward Amara, who stood close to her mother now, still trembling but holding her chin a little higher. Maya stepped closer to Brittany, Jenna, and Kaylee. Their mascara had begun to streak. Their confidence had crumbled. They weren't villains now. They were just scared kids caught in the reality of what cruelty looked like when reflected back at them. "You think this ends when the video's deleted?" Maya asked softly. "It doesn't. It ends when you understand what you didn't, who you hurt." Brittany's voice broke. "We said we were sorry." "I know," Maya said. "But saying sorry doesn't erase silence. It doesn't erase the people who watched you humiliate her and said nothing." Her eyes swept the crowd again. "Silence is a choice. You don't have to pick up a weapon to wound someone. You just have to stand by and watch." Duh! The words hit hard. People shifted uncomfortably, some turning away. But others, mothers, fathers, even a few teenagers, nodded slowly, as if seeing something they'd been avoiding. Peterson returned, her face pale. "Miss Cole, I reviewed the footage. It's exactly as you said. We'll be contacting the parents and taking disciplinary action. And we'll issue a statement this mall won't tolerate harassment of any kind." "Good," Maya replied, calm as ever. "Then let's make sure everyone watching learns something from this." She turned to her daughter, speaking loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Amara, you didn't do anything wrong. The world may try to shrink you, baby, but you were born to stand tall. Never lower your crown because someone else doesn't know how to shine." The crowd murmured, some clapped softly. Even the security guard looked moved. Brittany wiped her tears. "I didn't know she was your mom," she muttered. Maya's head tilted slightly. "You shouldn't have to know who someone's mother is to treat them with respect." The girl looked down, ashamed. And for a moment, Maya saw herself 15 years earlier, standing in a dusty military tent, being spoken to like she didn't belong. Flashback a desert somewhere years ago. The air was thick with heat and dust. Maya stood at attention, her uniform clinging to her skin, sweat trickling down her back. Across from her, her commanding officer, a tall man with cold blue eyes, was pacing. "You think you know better than the rest of the team, Cole?" he barked. "You think because you got through training, you're one of us?" Maya stared straight ahead, unmoving. "I am one of you, sir," the officer smirked. "You people always say that." Her fists tightened. She could have responded. She could have let the anger spill out. But she didn't. She stood tall, steady. When he turned away, she exhaled slowly, feeling her pulse hammer in her throat. She thought of her mother's words, the ones she'd passed down to Amara years later. You never know who's watching. That night, when a surprise attack hit their base, Maya was the first to react, dragging that same officer out of harm's way. When he thanked her later, she didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Respect isn't demanded. It's earned and revealed in the moments when hatred meets grace. Back in the mall, the memory faded. Maya's eyes softened as she looked at Amara again. I learned a long time ago, she said quietly, that people's cruelty says more about what's missing in them than about you. But when you meet hate with dignity, you take away its power. The crowd absorbed her words, some recording again but not to mock this time. They were capturing something different now. A lesson, a revelation. Maya took Amara's hand. Look around, she whispered. You see what happens when you stand your ground? Amara nodded slowly. They're listening. Good. But don't do it for them. Do it for yourself. She turned back to Brittany and her friends. You'll go home tonight and try to forget this, Maya said. But I hope you remember what it felt like when the world saw you for what you were doing. I hope it teaches you to be better. The girls nodded weakly, tears streaming down their faces. Then Maya addressed the bystanders one last time. Next time you see someone being humiliated, don't just film it. Don't just stand there. Do something. Because silence feeds cruelty and courage. She looked down at her daughter. Courage starts with one person deciding to speak. A small ripple of applause spread through the onlookers. Not the loud, performative, kind, quiet, genuine. A moment of acknowledgement. Maya placed both hands on Amara's shoulders. Her voice low enough that only her daughter could hear. Baby, you don't need to fight the world, she whispered. Just stand tall enough that the world sees itself. Amara felt something shift inside her like a knot that had been tied for years, finally loosening. Her breathing steadied. Her eyes cleared. She looked at her reflection in the glass window beside them, her hair. Her brown skin, her posture, and, for the first time in a long while, she didn't want to disappear. The mall, once filled with laughter at her expense, now felt like a stage where she had reclaimed her place. And in that silence, power changed hands. Maya gave one last nod to the manager, turned, and guided her daughter toward the exit, each step a quiet victory, leaving behind not humiliation, but truth. That night, the world outside their apartment was quiet, train whispering against the windows. City lights shimmering in faint reflections across the glass. Amara sat cross-legged on her bed, laptop open, a blank post blinking on the screen. She had scrolled through the clips people had uploaded. The mall scene had spread faster than she could process. But the part that people were sharing wasn't the bullying. It was her mother. Someone had filmed Maya's words. Her calm voice echoing through the store. Power isn't about who shouts the loudest. It's about who stays standing when everyone else looks away. The video had been reposted thousands of times already, captioned with hashtags like #RealStrength and #StandTall. Comment sections filled with people saying it made them cry. Amara hesitated, fingers hovering over the keyboard. She wasn't sure if she wanted to add to the noise. But then she saw one message from a girl in Atlanta. I look like her. I've been through this too. Tell her thank you for showing me it's okay to stand tall. Something inside Amara softened. She began typing slowly. Today I learned that silence doesn't protect you, it just hides you. My mom showed me what strength really looks like. Not fists. Not shouting. Just standing tall when you want to crumble. She attached the photo someone had taken of her. And Maya walking out of the mall, the two of them hand in hand, sunlight breaking through the glass doors. Then she hit post. Within minutes, the notifications started. Comments poured in, some angry at the bullies, most filled with love. Your mom's a legend. Thank you for sharing this. I needed it today. This made me call my mom just to tell her I love her. Mara smiled through tears she didn't realize she'd been holding back. From the kitchen, Maya's voice called softly. You still awake, baby? Yeah, Amara said, closing the laptop. Her mother stepped into the doorway, wearing her old army t-shirt and holding 2 mugs of tea. Couldn't sleep either, she said, setting one on the nightstand. Amara looked at her, guilt flickering across her face. Mom, I'm sorry you had to come there. I didn't want to cause trouble. Maya shook her head, sitting beside her. You didn't cause anything, Amara. You stood there and took something you never should have had to. I just made sure the world saw it for what it was. For a while they just sat in the quiet. The steady rhythm of rain filled the room. Maya took a slow sip of tea before speaking again. You know, when I joined the military, people told me I'd never last. I thought strength was about being fearless. But it's not. She glanced at her daughter. Strength isn't loud. It's steady. It walks beside you in silence until you need it most. Amara blinked, her throat tightening. That's what you did today. Maya smiled gently. No, that's what you did. I just reminded you what it looked like. The words sank in like sunlight through fog. Amara leaned against her mother's shoulder, breathing in the faint scent of jasmine and rain. For the first time in months, her heart felt light. Hours later, long after Maya had fallen asleep on the couch, Amara woke and walked to the window. The city stretched before her lights scattered like stars. Somewhere down the street, the mall stood dark and silent. She imagined its empty halls, polished floors, everything still. The same place that had once felt like a trap now felt peaceful, a symbol not of shame but of survival. The next morning, Amara's post had gone viral. News outlets picked it up. Influencers shared it. Strangers sent messages of solidarity. But what struck her most weren't the views or the comments, it was the stories. Kids from schools she'd never heard of. Women who said they saw themselves in Maya. Men who admitted they'd stood by once and regretted it. Her mother scrolled through some of the messages with her over breakfast, eyes soft but unreadable. See, she said finally. The world needed that story. You gave it to them, Amara smiled. I guess we both did. Maya looked out the window, the morning sun glinting off her old service boots by the door. Maybe, she said quietly, but you're the one who'll keep telling it. And Amara knew then that her mother was right. Because courage, she realized, wasn't something you inherit. It's something you practice one silent, steady step at a time. When she left for school that day, she stood a little taller. Heads turned, whispers rippled, but she didn't look down. The memory of that mall, the echo of boots, the hush that followed walked beside her. Not a burden anymore, a promise. The world outside had changed. Or maybe finally she had. If this story moved you, take a breath and let it sit for a moment. Feel what it means when someone decides not to hide anymore, when a quiet voice finally stands tall against the noise. Because courage doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes it shows up in jeans and sneakers, trembling but unbroken. Sometimes it walks beside you through the worst day of your life and whispers, keep going. You're stronger than you think. Amara and her mother reminded us that strength isn't about shouting. It's about showing up, even when it hurts. It's the calm after the storm, the hand that reaches down to lift someone else up. So if you believe in stories that speak truth, that defend dignity, that celebrate real courage, then join this community. Hit subscribe, share this story, and stand with us. Because the more we tell stories like Amara's, the fewer will ever go unheard again.